Well, well, well. AFC Bournemouth have sacked Scott Parker with due a Tovey reacts. First time in the Premier League this season. Where did it all go wrong? Let's talk about it on the eve before a Premier League match against Wolves, where our season is supposed to begin. Hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. I want to get your thoughts in the comments below. Scott Parker is no longer AFC Bournemouth manager. So after we failed to get promoted through the playoffs, thank you to Jonathan Woodgate, he did his best, but we needed a process and we needed a plan. And I very much backed Scott Parker coming in to deliver that. His remit was to get us back to the Premier League. It was split. I was seeing 60-44, and what helped him was winning football matches. That was always going to help him. And that unbeaten 15, the players that came in, some very good experience in the likes of Gary Cahill, and we hit the ground running. And it felt like this could be a rosy period for AFC Bournemouth after relegation from the Premier League and failing to get promoted at the first attempt. But then we had that middle spell, didn't we? We had that spell where we weren't playing very well. We were struggling to break down a low block and struggling to score against teams in lower league of the Championship. Not scoring against Peterborough at home, not scoring or not beating Hull City, not beating Reading. And it wasn't just about the results. It was the performances. It was boring. It was lackluster. It wasn't very good to watch. We had a lot of the ball, but we wasn't going very far. We heard all of that, didn't we, when Scott Parker came in from Fulham fans saying, enjoy the football, it's not very enjoying. But we have to make sure that we got over the line, and his remit was to get Bournemouth back to the Premier League. And he did do that. No matter whether you liked him or you didn't like him, you didn't like the way he came across in communication or his media duties, he said it at the end. He didn't watch or look at social media. I'm not sure I fully believe that. But the statistics were there. We were second in the Championship, we got promoted, we scored goals, and we were very solid at the back. And that was reason because he had a very good goalkeeper and a very, very good striker and some talent in and around that. Going into the Premier League though, it was obvious to Scott Parker that he wanted to improve this squad. The first time we were in the Premier League, we were frustrated that we didn't have a legacy out of it apart from some electronic turnstiles inside the Vitality Stadium, as we know, Dean Court. But we wanted a legacy this time, and the club were forward in coming to tell us that that training ground would start. We would start to build the training ground. We'd start and get some bricks and mortar down at Camford Magna. And my question was this something that Scott Parker was buying into? Because we know it was an Eddie Howe thing. We know that Eddie Howe wanted that training ground and that legacy. And I always sat there and thought that Scott Parker, does he see Bournemouth as a long-term future for him? Is it all about building stepping stones on his CV to maybe a job that he's happy to spend a long time in if it all went well? And that was a question that I asked some of our contributors on the channel was, is he protecting himself or is he protecting the club? Because he had to buy into what the club wanted to achieve when we got that money package for going back to the Premier League. And clearly, as we see it, as we look at the transfer window we've had, it's about maybe securing the club for the next 30 years and then building from that. Because if you want to bring an income in, what's the best way to do it than to take a talent this young and building him up through an academy, and you've got a category status training ground that means you can keep hold of them and sell them for 50 million quid when they're peaking at their best. But Scott Parker wanted it now, and he wanted the best players now. And when performances started to turn after that great start in the Premier League against Aston Villa at home, we had 3 tough fixtures. And we all knew that we would probably lose these fixtures. And I'm pretty sure that Bournemouth fans will sit there and go, we don't care if we lose, it's about how we lose. I said that when Scott Parker came in, I was convinced he was the right man to get us back to the Premier League. But I also said to a mate of mine, and I also commented on a video at some point, that if we did get to the Premier League, I wasn't sure whether he was the man to keep us up in the Premier League. I'm sure as Bournemouth fans, if we get relegated, it is what it is, but we don't want to be relegated without having a chance, and we don't want to be relegated not competing. And when you look at Arsenal and Liverpool, we were out the football match inside 10 minutes, and Parker was trying to adapt a style and a formation that the players weren't really used to, because we never played it in the Championship, but it was meant to make us harder to beat. But teams were opening us up with ease. And for me, it was a culmination that was always going to happen. I doubted whether Parker would last the season, but I didn't think he'd be sacked after Saturday, although 9-0 defeat is embarrassing and it's unacceptable. But clearly, both parties don't see eye to eye. They decided to call it quits, and I'm hearing it was that Parker was sacked, not that he walked away, that he was sacked. And on the eve of a big game against Wolves and then Forest in the weekend, and we need to pick up points. I mean, I think we need 3 points from Wednesday's game, not a point. We need to take 3 points and then go off to Forest and get something as well. But who comes in now is a massive question, because I've been asked already this morning on a radio station that is Sean Dyche the man? Probably the obvious choice. He's not got a job at the moment. He's got experience in the Premier League. He's kept Burnley up for many years. I know they got relegated, but he's got a CV. Does his football suit us? There's your first question. Probably not. And after a year or so with Scott Parker and the difficulties and the frustrations we've had, although it was a very good success in the end, do you want to have a manager that's going to create those similar frustrations? Because Bournemouth fans sometimes just want to see nice football and be on the edge of the seat, and you've got to question whether Sean Dyche would do that. If we haven't got the money though to go and nick someone from another club, are you looking to go for someone who's less going to cost you or got less experience? I would say there are probably managers out there that have managed in the Championship and come through the ranks, and have they really had experience as being a manager? Probably not, but would you take a punt on them? Maybe. It would cost you again some money I suppose, because if you're going to want to get the likes of Neil Critchley out of Aston Villa as assistant manager, or Michael Beale out of QPR, there's a few options there. Chris Wilder's stuck in at Middlesbrough, but again, he's not setting the world alight. And then there's the foreign market to look at. Is there any managers that are doing something in other leagues that could adapt to the Premier League? What we do know is that a new manager's not going to be able to add their own stamp of players on this squad until January. They're going to have to lift those players that are on the floor after that defeat, and how Scott Parker spoke about them previously, and get some wins on the board, and then influence maybe the squad that they want to try and build in January. I'd like to get your thoughts though, because who do you want to be the next AFC Bournemouth manager? Are you happy that Scott Parker has been released of his duties? Do you think Scott Parker deserved more time, or did he nail that coffin after that Liverpool performance? Interesting times for AFC Bournemouth fans. We're in the Premier League, it's what we wanted, but at the moment it's all getting a little bit messy, and we need to start turning some negative stuff into positive stuff very, very soon, and hopefully we get results and performances on the pitch, and maybe that'll help us with Gary Neal and Tommy Elphick tomorrow taking charge. They've got a legend on the sidelines, and maybe they'll just be asked to go out there and play some free-flowing football and see what happens, see where heart takes them, shall we say, until the next manager comes in. Scott Parker's out the door. I'm sure they're busy in the office searching for a new manager as we speak, and we'll see what happens this week in the Premier League with a managerless Bournemouth. Until the next video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Also, thank you to our monthly members. You can become a monthly member at buymeacoffee.com/Cherries Red Army. Get those comments in. We'll see you on the next one. Up the cherries.